Good evening. We will call to order the regular Board of Education meeting of Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Will you take roll call, please?
Tisha?
Here.
Bridget? Here. Tracy?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Ann?
Here.
And Aaron is absent.
Thank you. I will verify quorum. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brian, would you read our mission statement, please?
Certainly. Working together to ensure high levels of learning for all.
Thank you. Was public notice of this meeting given?
Public notice was given to the requesting news media. The agenda was posted at the district office and on the district website.
Thank you. Are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
No changes.
Seeing none, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Bridget to approve tonight's agenda as presented. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tonight's agenda is approved as presented. We do not have any requests tonight for public input on those presented agenda items, so we are going to move right into a pretty amazing celebration. So we welcome tonight track and field coach Zach Wallenfang. So I'm going to turn things over to you to share who you have with us and how things went at the track meet.
Yeah, we had a great state meet this year. It's always so much fun when we can send, quite a crew of kids in, and it was unique this year where we had, quite a few individual qualifiers as opposed to some relays. Who I have here are some state qualifiers for us. I've got Ricky Tillotson and I've got Elin Gillis, and they're gonna speak quickly on what they qualified in and what their memorable moment at state was for them. Start with Ricky.
Hi, yes, my name is Ricky Tillotson. I did both the discus and triple jump at state. I do a lot of events usually, but those were the ones I made it in, and it was such an amazing experience at state. My coaches and all the teammates, we all worked so hard to get there, and it was just so much fun seeing all those people and there's so much support from all my family members. Yeah, and being on such a big stage and getting to perform and performing one of my best scores was amazing.
Fantastic. And what year in school are you?
Oh, I am now graduated. I am a senior. So now I'm going to be a freshman in college. I know.
And where are you off to?
I'm going off to UWL.
Oh, good.
So I'm not going too far. So.
Fantastic. It's a good institution, so.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good, good.
Hi, my name is Elin. I was a sophomore. I'm going to be a junior. I ran the 400 and 4x4. My most memorable moment probably from state was probably running it with Bella. She always was with me, and it was amazing because she kind of started and helped me get there and build my confidence. So I think that was my favorite part of the whole meet.
And Bella is graduated, correct?
Yeah, she was in Ricky's class.
Okay. And phenomenal example of leadership and mentorship, and what a fantastic culture that has been developed on the track team. That's really awesome that you share that piece of it with us tonight. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for?
Are you both going to continue to be in track?
I will.
In my mind right now, I love track, I do, but going off to college, I was also in golf, and we did make it to golf in state as well. And I will be trying out for the golf team at UWL, and I just don't think it's realistic to do two sports. I think it's already a lot just to do college. But I think it might be my time to end track. So, although it was really, really fun, and it was a sport that I started since I was almost 5 years old, and it is really sad to see it come to a close.
Well, that's a really memorable way, though, to finish up your, if this is the end of your track career, like, this is a very
Yeah.
impressive way to finish it up, going to state, so congratulations, you both.
This was my first year ever going to state and sectionals, so it was a great way to end out my 4 years in high school at track. So I am really happy it ended like this, and with such an amazing group of kids beside me.
Anyone else? Well, I want to thank you both for coming tonight. I know that's a big ask on a really beautiful summer Monday night, but we appreciate you coming to share your successes, your thoughts about the team, and again, congratulations to you and to you, Coach Wallingfang. Really, really amazing stuff. So congratulations and best of luck to you next year. We hope to see you back, and to you next year as well. We're happy you're staying local. All right, and we do have some donations to recognize tonight.
We would like to share our thanks and gratitude for the following donations. $10 from Rosemary Moline, thank you for that, for Irving Perch Elementary Library in memory of Kim Clark, and $250 from Keys Architecture for books for ELA classrooms at Onalaska High School. So thank you to them.
Yes, it's much appreciated. Each week, we seem to have a couple of these on our agenda, and so much appreciate the community for their continued support in so many ways. And this especially direct to students is really fantastic. All right, for information tonight, we have a board report, and I'm going to invite Mark and Tracy both to, no, I'm sorry, not Tracy, Bridget. We had a public engagement committee meeting tonight prior to this meeting, and it's a new makeup with our new committee structure. Mark joined us tonight for the first time. We had very good conversation about what we can do as a board in conjunction with Mr. Barton and this office to continue to engage our community. What type of information do we want them to know, and what is important for them to know? We focused a lot on under our strategic plan and the identified goals, which were building trust with the Board of Education, increasing our communication, as well as increasing communication to the public about school financing and how that works in the state of Wisconsin, in an effort to just educate, because it is such a complicated, difficult system, and we think it's important that people understand it as best they can. Bridget or Mark, anything you want to add to that?
Sure. I'll just add a couple things that I think are really important that we're doing is reevaluating how we get perception information from different stakeholder groups. I think we've done a really nice job of getting that from our staff, our educators, our parents, our students, but now looking for a more formalized way to get feedback from people outside of our buildings, outside of our four walls. So even beyond the parent group, but other community members. So we're looking into ways to do that more efficiently, more effectively, and a better subsection, cross-section of what our community actually looks like. And then also engaging our legislators and coming up with a plan of how to do a better job of that, especially with the goal. I know Ben has shared a lot about being a model school district, and I think a big part of that is having strong relationships with the people who are in charge of our funding. And so that'll be a big goal for that committee as well.
Yeah, I think I'll just add, trying to identify and find other ways to reach out to some other groups that we haven't communicated with a lot in the community.
Thank you. So this is new, this adding a board report is new to our agenda. We hope to continue to do that as these different committees meet. So are welcome to any input or feedback from anyone if you want more or less information. All right, we're going to then go into, speaking of strategic plan, we're going to talk about our Pillar 1, and we're going to start with Lish, and I'll let you lead that conversation.
Thank you. So yeah, this will be our last report on these objectives for Pillar 1 for these particular objectives for our strategic plan: integrating essential academic and social emotional learning to ensure achievement for all, and amplifying student belonging and engagement. So some of our data at this point in time is incomplete because while our forward scores have been given to us in the secure form, we cannot yet share them publicly and cannot yet share them with the board until they get sent home to parents, which should be happening in the next week or two. And ACT scores as well have just been sent home to parents, but we just aren't able to share those out in the public forum yet. So we'll share as much as we can for each of these indicators and talk about the work that we did this year. So for our reading and ELA achievement, our goals were having at least 66% of our 3rd through 8th graders proficient on forward and ELA. Last year, we had 58% proficient in forward. And then our predictor indicator of STAR showed us to predict 55% proficient. So that was pretty close of a predictor last year, which is honestly one of the best predictions we've had from STAR, probably. However, you might recall that Wisconsin changed some of their standard setting for the forward test, and then STAR has been trying to catch up. So they've given us a little grain of caution on using that as a predictor this year. However, I would say that showing us at 66% proficient on STAR reading this year is very promising, especially considering you might remember that our big action step was implementation of a new resource for ELA K through 8. So we're feeling positive about that. We had, for the high school, a goal of 55% of our 11th graders achieving proficiency on ACT. The state average last year was 43%, and so we're looking to beat the state average on that. But again, we don't have a predictor data to report there. And then early literacy, you might recall we added this one last year with the Act 20 statute that came into play, and we're just looking to reduce the number of students who need a personal reading plan. That means that they're scoring below the 25th percentile. And we had a really nice reduction there from 30% needing that reading plan at the end of last year to 19% across the district. So our big action steps there, we're looking at more practice in fluency for those younger grades, and so that's showing up really nicely for us there. For math then, similarly, we had a math achievement goal. We wanted at least 73% of our 3rd through 8th graders to be proficient on forward. We had 65% last year. And our STAR math actually predicted a little higher than forward last year. And right now our STAR math is predicting about 70%. So we're not quite sure how to interpret that. It might be close or it might be just a little high compared to where we were at on forward last year. And then similarly, we had a goal for our ACT math, wanting at least 55% of our 11th graders to be proficient. The state average last year was 32%, so we're looking to be quite a bit above that state average, but again, don't have predictor data for that. Our big goals for the math achievement were continuing to work on math coaching, and so that's something that we've done through this year, and we're happy with the increase on STAR math and continuing into next year for that as well. And then I'm going to turn it over to Lori for the growth part.
Yes, thank you. So our goal for ELA and math in growth was to be in the top 5 local and top 5 in our local and comparable group school districts, which again, we don't have the data for because we don't have report cards out yet. So that'll be a data point that we will continue to look. Last year we were in the top 5, so hopefully we can either increase our standing or decrease our standing, I guess. Make our standing better when those results come out. But I do want to talk a little bit about the work around growth that we've done this year, both for ELA and for math. In ELA, we've had a really, I think, solid system of interventions, especially at the Tier 3 level, where we worked really hard to make sure that how we identify students in need of a Tier 3 intervention is really pretty solid across the district and has been for a number of years. What I think we still need some work around is the Tier 1 and the Tier 2, especially in light of, like Lush mentioned, implementing a new ELA curriculum. So making sure that that universal instruction is consistent and viable for all students, and then also if students aren't performing at a Tier 2 level, how do we intervene? And so that will, again, kind of going like not backward, but aligning that with our new resource and the processes around that are still very important. So very solid, I think, in Tier 3 intervention, progress monitoring, that part of our system, but the work now kind of has to be around that tier 1 and tier 2 as we go forward. In math, our system of interventions really, until I think this year, hasn't been as solid as our literacy. Let me back up one more thing too. Our Act 20 really made us, maybe in a good way, maybe this was the intent of the act, made us more accountable to those interventions and the progress monitoring and the parent communication and all those pieces. So in a good way, that solidified our system for ELA. And going forward, that will continue. Getting back to math, our math system of interventions has not been as well-developed. We don't have as many students in need of math interventions typically, but that when we do, we have in the past figured out a path forward for that particular student. So we had a work group this year that really focused on developing our math matrix of interventions to use for students. So it's still a little bit in its infancy stage, but we were very selective in the interventions we picked. We ran it through a bunch of criteria to make sure it was something we wanted to use in our district, looking at the research, looking at cost, looking at training, looking at group size, fidelity, all the different pieces before we added it to our list of interventions. We had some teachers from that work group pilot some of the math interventions and then bring feedback back to the group to make sure it was something that was what teachers would also recommend and want to use. So I feel like we attacked that process well. We got the list of interventions for, it's actually K-12 in place. We have progress monitoring tools that we have. We are working on, we finalized a problem-solving process for determining if a student needs a Tier 3 intervention, which also then includes that Tier 1 and Tier 2. I know there was a lot of work with math coaching this year that helps support the universal and the Tier 2 interventions. So our math is coming along, and I think it's going to catch up pretty quickly to that literacy with the work that we did this year. So that's the information about our growth goal, and it'll be interesting to see, like Lish mentioned, where our results come out when they finally do. Any questions on that part of it?
So the top 5 that's in there right now is just like a preemptive? Is that?
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay, I was just.
Yeah, nope, I had the same
Is that
question.
like a
Yep.
sneak preview?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, no,
we
yeah,
We don't have report cards.
yeah, yep, we realized that.
Thank you.
I realized that after it got posted. So.
Yeah, yep, but good question, good catch. So the next thing I want to talk about is attendance. If you recall, our goal across the district was to increase the percentage of students with under 10% of absences to 90%. And at the end of last year, we were at 88%, and this year, the calculation showed that we met the 90% goal that we had for the end of the strategic plan for the 5 years. So that's really good that we continue to, I don't know that we did, there were a lot of things that we put in place over the last 4 years, 5 years, and those things continued. And maybe we're seeing also that they are maybe a little bit more impactful than they have been in the past because we've systematized them. From policy change to working with the county for some services to different strategies that we've used have shown some good results and consistently shown some good results. So. The last one I want to report out on is the student engagement. If you remember at the last board meeting, Jen Kalis came and presented all the results. Well, for this piece of it, we pull out that life at school portion and look in, this is the goal that we've been focusing on and then all the different building goals around it. So we went from a 3.88 last year to a 3.99. So again, a little tick up in our results around that. But if you remember, Jen shared all of those results last meeting too. Okay. Any questions on Pillar 1 from district level? Okay, then we'll go into the building levels, and the elementary principals are going to start us off with that.
Yep, and I will start off with this first slide. This is a conglomeration of all 3 elementary schools. One of the evolutions of our strategic planning and goal setting has been to really I guess, fine-tune this from district level down to the building levels, and I think this past year has been probably the best example of that yet. So although we did have individual independent goals set for schools, we based it around these same things. So it really helped our collaboration times. What you have on this slide is reading achievement, math achievement, and ELA math and math growth. And as Lish mentioned, this somewhat unstable correlation between STAR and forward. Actually, when we started doing this, it was pretty strong. But then, as Lish said, the state made some changes to forward, and so now we're trying to figure out what is actually happening. So that's why you'll see some of the sort of incongruencies there between our forward and STAR. But one of the things that we are looking forward to is, as STAR has increased from one year to the next, we're hoping that will show up in forward as well. So it may not be an exact correlation to the percentage in terms of proficiency. It'll hopefully be similar, at least in improvement from year to year. So we'll look for that as well. Also want to point out that they are different student groups, from last year's group to this year's group. So each school then will be diving into this, obviously, during the summer retreat sessions to look specifically at our grade levels and how the cohorts are doing from one year to the next, along with all of the different subgroups and things like that. So that'll be part of the work coming forward. But you can see that there is some change there, positive change from STAR last year to this year. Like I said, hopefully that will transfer into forward growth as well. Then in terms of the ELA and math growth, we're using the SGP, and remember SGP is student growth percentile, and that is a STAR measure, and that is to give us some indications of how our students are growing, similar to students who start at a similar score. So a 50 would make sure that they are moving along with the pack of their peers, and so we would like them to grow more than that. But we want as many students as we can hitting that 50 mark. And you can see we're kind of stable in that regard, maybe up, down a little bit around in that area, but trying to increase the percentage of our students that are meeting that 50 plus SGP. So hopefully that covers, at least in general, what that is. If you have any questions about that. Okay, thank you.
Is this gonna be coming around again when the forward scores are in? Like, we'll be coming back?
Yeah, so you guys might remember that we get the report cards in November, so then we'll share with you the forward scores and then the report cards, because their state calls it embargoed, but we can't share it publicly until
Sure.
they release it. So yes, in November we will
Oh, in
share.
November?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I'm the next slide, and as Liz shared, we had a goal to decrease our students on personal reading plans in kindergarten through third grade. And so you can see specific building data up there and a lot to celebrate. I would say something that we can think about, as we always say, we want to be pleased but not satisfied. So we're very excited about our decrease here, and then also reflecting on what changes did we make this year and how can we continue those into the next few years. And so some of the things I know that our teams have done is that collaboration among our teaching staff, our classroom teachers, multilingual teachers, interventionists, and special education teachers to really reach all students, and then utilizing all of the resources, as Lori talked about, and best tools that we have during that win and intervention time to group and really intervene with our early learners there. So continuing to reflect and just keep decreasing that number.
That's really amazing, especially given brand new curriculum, which I'm guessing might have come with some hiccup along the way, but that's amazing. Congrats to you guys.
I would say especially as I spoke with kindergarten first and second, the resource, CKLA is very different in how they teach early literacy compared to what we had OG for a few years, where we did see also a lot of growth in students with that. And what I think has been really beneficial is that our teachers have that OG training, because what I've noticed is that almost all of them, as well as our interventionists, are using that OG training during like our win and intervention time. So even though they don't use it as their core instruction anymore and they have CKLA, they're still able to utilize that as a tool and resource during that time too. And I
OG
think it's-
is Orton Gillingham, which
Yes,
is.
sorry, thank you.
early-
Orton Gillingham, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so I just think that that's been, while, you know, like you said, hiccups with something new and different, I think it's been really beneficial to have had that training and be able to use it as an intervention too.
That's fantastic, and that they all seem to be blending well together with positive impact, so, thank you.
The last two areas are around attendance and student engagement. So looking at the attendance goal for each of the elementaries, maintaining or improving the percentage of students with under 10% absences. So you'll see increases in both of those, or across all of our buildings. And again, like Lori said, that's a testament to the systems that we put in place around connecting families with resources. Also, just knowing what our families need to help them to get students to school each and every day on time and every day. So really great numbers and increases there around student attendance. Student engagement, again, looking at the Life at School survey, increases in each of our buildings in that area, meeting or exceeding the goal of a 0.15 increase. And that's just, again, a testament to knowing kids, connecting them across the buildings with opportunities for them to be engaged, whether that's leadership, buddy classrooms, even just student rounding, to know like what's going well at each of our buildings and then what we can do to increase their experience at elementary. So just proud of the increases in each of the areas of attendance and student engagement as well.
Right. Any questions for elementary? I think it's also a testament to the leadership in the buildings, so I think you guys deserve a pat on the back. Obviously, teachers and interventionists and, boots on the ground, but so do you guys. So thank you for your commitment to that. It was a big year in ELA, so appreciate it.
Middle school, all right. So our first goals here are on ELA math and then growth for both. With ELA achievement, again, our major focus this year was implementing the new curriculum and really diving into that and understanding that. And that has a lot of different components. And so I just want to share one example of the many things our teachers are doing just to help maybe zoom in a little bit just from the new curriculum broad statement that we always say. So one of the tasks, specific tasks that our teachers took on this year is that they were going through all of the assessments that are in the new curriculum and aligning what standards those were assessing to all of the priority standards that we had previously identified as a district. So what we're doing is making sure that with the new curriculum, we're seeing if there are any gaps in what we're assessing compared to what we've said is the most important things for us to be assessing previously. So that is work that's just one of the many things our ELA teachers were doing all year to really dive in, understand, and implement this curriculum. And, there's probably a few areas where we're going to need to supplement to make sure that we are still aligned with the most important standards that we've picked out previously. So that's just one example of what implementing a new curriculum looks like. So the goal here was to improve from a baseline of 59% to 65%. So you can see last year, at the end of the year, our STAR predicted 57% proficient, and the forward came out at 59%. This year, at the end of the year, our STAR for ELA for the whole school, this is 6th or 8th grade, ended at 75%. So fantastic stuff there from our ELA crew. With math achievement, a big thing that we kind of changed this past year, we changed some of what we did around math acceleration. And again, to give you a specific example of what that looks like, our 3 teachers who taught advanced math courses, they formed a new PLC, professional learning community, together. And so they met a few times throughout the year and talked about some of the unique challenges of teaching an advanced level course and just in how you're presenting content and the different things that you're expecting from students in terms of how to demonstrate their knowledge. And so that was something new that they took on this year. In addition to that, our math team has continued to focus on their hallmarks. That's not the word we use, I can't think of it at the moment, but in terms of the best instructional practices, the walkthroughs that we've been doing the last 3 years. So the goal was to improve from 62% to 68%. So last year, you can see the STAR was at 70% and the forward came out at 62. This year, the STAR is at 76% of students proficient or advanced at the end of the year. And then for growth, the big focus that we took on this year was making some changes to topper time, trying to have more targeted interventions and trying to have more enrichment opportunities for students that were already proficient. So that they're, I banned playing computer games. That didn't stop them from trying, as the IT department can attest to. But we tried to put a stop to that and find more productive uses of time and then more targeted intervention and support. And so in ELA, this is the percentage of students that had an SGP of 50, which is average or higher. We wanted to increase that from 50% to 60. And we didn't quite get there for ELA. We made it to 56% of students were having average to above average growth. And then math to increase from 33% to 50%. And math, we got just to 50%. So half of all students were growing average or above average rates of growth. And so these will obviously continue to be areas that we focus on, and we'll continue to take what worked and stick with it, and what didn't quite work, continue to assess and tweak moving forward.
So is that, if you can go back to the bottom here, is this a typo? Should that be 33?
Math that says 63, it looks like it dropped 13%. Is that correct?
But here it's saying
I
that
think-
wanting to increase from 33. So I'm just,
That might be a typo.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, I had the same question.
I think that is a typo.
Thanks. I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify, make sure I understood the table. But yeah, it would make sense based on what you
Yeah.
said that that should be 33.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll take the attendance and the engagement part of our, we'll call it 1B. So there's 1A is the academic and 1B would be the attendance and the engagement. And I am so proud of our school for our attendance at 91% at a middle school. That is something that is really remarkable, and it is the work of our TAPS team, our teachers, making students feel like they belong. And it's exciting because these are back to pre-COVID levels, which is, it's remarkable, and it's been a lot of hard work from a lot of people, but we're back and we're at 91%, and that is just a fantastic number to be at. We instituted something this year, lunch detentions for students who accumulated 2 or more tardies. And that isn't reflected on the attendance, but that adds to the attendance and adds the getting to class on time every time. That just adds to students valuing being at school and being in class. We had a retired teacher come and help out in the library, and she said, the thing I notice most is that there's no students in the hallways anymore. And I said, that is our goal, and it is awesome. And we have students in class and engaged in the learning. And that is a direct correlation with our increase in academic achievement, which is so exciting. Next is student engagement, and we recognize that this is an area that we want to continue to work on. We didn't see the growth that we wanted to see, but it's hard because it's a different cohort of students that we're, and I know Jen probably explained this last week, that we're taking data from each year. So they take this student exit survey every 3 or 4 years. So it's not comparing apples to apples, it's comparing apples to oranges, but we still have work to do here, and we did an exercise this year where we had all students fill out like what makes you feel like you belong at school, and how can we make you feel, or how can we make changes to make you feel like you belong more in school. And then at a staff meeting we went through, and there's something about looking at kids writing, and really like synthesizing that evidence and making changes based on that. And then our staff got together and kind of like a stop doing, start doing, and keep doing type of analysis. We got some really good information from that exercise as a staff. And we also asked students to add somebody that they feel like they connect with. It's really awesome to be able to give the sheets to the teachers. And everyone was named, and some teachers are named multiple times. And it's just, I think, Ben, you always say, like, not every teacher is going to connect with every student, but we want to make sure that every student at least connects with one teacher in our school building, and that is accomplished. So that's something that we like to celebrate as well.
Kudos to your team as well and the leadership at your, so far we've seen at all levels, absences have decreased and they're feeling better about being at school, which are, right, two baseline things that they need to be there and they need to be happy to be there. So that's really fantastic. So kudos to your leadership and your entire staff. That's amazing.
I had a quick follow-up question for you, Jana. If you have any examples that you can share of the stop doing and start doing, any that stood out to you?
Well, I'll give you a funny example and then I'll give you a serious example. So a funny example is that students wanted to be able to have their phones back. It's a travesty that we banned phones, not last year, but the year before. But something that we saw is that students want some more time in the day to engage with each other, not like socially. And when we had, which is interesting because it's kind of a catch-22, because when we had phones, kids would sit at lunch and recess and just be on their phones. And now they are engaging with each other at neutral break and lunch and recess, but they want time in the day that's unstructured to engage with each other. And that's something like a longer recess or things like that, things that we would love to add to the day. Where do you do that? I don't know, but those are things where kids really want that like unstructured time to be able to engage with each other. They like, and we're going to keep doing the shorter classes, and all of our kids are so excited about the choice in allieds that we're going to have for 7th and 8th graders this year. And we saw that came through, that was loud and clear. And another thing that some students wanted was increased extracurricular opportunities for 6th graders.
Thank you.
If I can just add to that briefly, we make it a point anytime we're giving a tour to a prospective student or family, take them over to where we have on the wall the list of all of our clubs and activities and all of our extracurricular music opportunities and all of our sports, because like those are great opportunities too, like Janice said, like that's time with peers that there's some structure to it, but you're typically connecting with peers that you have shared interests with. And so there's a lot of power to that. And so that's something we'll continue to prioritize and promote heavily for all of our students.
Any other questions, comments for the middle school? Right, and Liz is going to do the high school.
I'm handling the high school report tonight. I have some notes from Jared. I'm going to try to summon my inner Jared here. You may recall that in the past they have had a goal at the high school for a percentage of students passing their core classes. This year we upped that a little bit and looking for a C or better, not just passing. So first semester we're at 74% of students earning a C or better in their core classes, and then second semester that got up to 80%. And the key thing that they changed in that second semester was changing how they did their weekly counselor and admin meetings. And that was looking at any kid who was not achieving that C and then making a plan with those counselors and the admin at the table. What are we going to do to connect with this child to make sure that they're getting to that C? So that was what they credited as that big change there. They were also looking for 90% of students enrolled in an AP course taking the test, and then 85% of them getting a 3 or better. And they had 91% of their students who were in an AP course that registered for the exam. They did a lot around this in September and October. They made a separate collaboration PLC of anyone who teaches an AP course, and they talked about how do we create the culture where all students sign up for the test, and then how do we make sure we support them through the year. 14 out of the 18 AP courses were over that 90% mark. And then they shifted in second semester to how do we best prepare students for that AP exam using the AP Classroom online through College Board. And we won't get our results back until July for how students did on those AP tests. But I know that group that collaborated around it, all the teachers who teach AP, felt like that collaboration was really positive to just start those conversations amongst them. And then they wanted 80% of juniors to meet or exceed their projected composite score. So they take a fall practice ACT, and then they do different resource groups based on the scores. And so they had 89% of juniors meeting or exceeding their projected ACT composite score. Again, we can't give you the overall what scores they had, but we were able to take a look at who was meeting that. And they did a lot of one-on-one planning, which could be anywhere from boosting someone's confidence, yes, you can do this, to resource or specific interventions that they needed. And then their career and technical education goal was increasing the number of students that were eligible for the CTE Technical Incentive Grant. So that's something that DPI puts out a list every year of specific CTE areas that would be eligible for a grant that students can apply for. And it's different every year based on what our community's industry needs. So like this past year, it was the firefighter EMTs were ones that qualified for it. So taking a look, since that's kind of a moving target, we looked at who just met any of those industry recognized credentials, youth apprenticeships or pre-apprentice programs. So this year we had 96 industry recognized credentials, youth apprenticeships or pre-apprentice programs by this graduating class. And just for comparison, we had 25 in the 2023 graduating class, and the year that we started doing this, we had 12 in 2020. So to go from 12 students 6 years ago to 96 students that are earning those industry recognized credentials, because some of those are things that they can take that credential and then be in the workforce after this. So I know Jared shared about this earlier in the year, but this year we added a credential in automotive welding and metalworking, Java and Python, which are some computer coding things, not real snakes or coffee. And then some that we've had previously in Adobe, Inventor, Microsoft Office, and then the assistant child care teacher pre-apprentice. So those all add into that 96 that we had this year. Questions about that? I can do my best.
Are those individual students, or is it possible that like the same student could earn multiple?
So I think that is not duplicated. So I think that's individual students, but they can earn multiple.
But that's amazing. I mean, that's about a third, maybe more than that of the class size, right?
Between a third and a half.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's, some students are able to, they qualify as what's called a CTE concentrator, and that's not, that itself doesn't give you a specific credential, but that's something DPI has us report on, and that's if they take any 2 courses in the same career pathway of CTE. So if you have a student that maybe takes Intro to Marketing, Principles of Marketing, that's 2 in one same pathway, or like infant and toddler and child development, that's 2 in one same pathway. So that's another way where students could be recognized this way. Then for attendance, they were shooting for at least 87% of students having that 90% school attendance. This was our one building that ticked down a little bit, but in taking a look at that, the high school implemented a lot of different things, but what we noticed taking a look at their data was that there was a pretty big increase in medical excused absences. So that's one of the things that the high school team wants to dig into a little bit about the medically excused absences and how those might be impacting. But they had a 3-week attendance check with counselors and support teachers for those students who were not hitting that 90% attendance mark. And in comparison, if they took out that medically excused part, then they would have been a few percent higher as well. So just something that they're taking a look and digging into. Then last year they added that the Engage activity, you might remember that was something that they were piloting, where twice a month students can select a specific activity, or they may have club meetings or things like that, and it's within the school day. And they wanted at least 70% of students participating in an engage activity, and they got to 55%. So for the first year of tracking that is pretty good to make sure that students are involved in something. And then I know you already heard about their Life at School scores, but they focused on the one statement, I was able to handle the stress involved in school and activities, and they were able to increase how students reported on that one from 3.6 to 3.9. And as Jana mentioned, it's little apples to oranges because this is last year's seniors to this year's seniors, but still something that is important, I think, for us to recognize that we want our kids to be involved, but there's also a balance of we want them to do their academics at a high level and we want them to be involved, and some of them also want to work or be involved in other community activities as well, so it's all about a balance. Questions about the high school there?
I appreciate that the high school, the building of its size and the range of just offerings and how independent high school gets. I appreciate the focus on the individual students is still very evident in what their goals are. So kudos to them as well. And increasing student engagement, always positive, and that looks like across the board that went up for every building. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So the last thing is just the overall scorecard there. So you can see our trajectory from the beginning of this strategic plan to now. We don't have those report card rankings, so that's why that line is empty there. But really proud of the work we've done over the last 4 years here on the strategic plan.
As you should be. So does anybody have any other questions or comments on this report? So thank you. Thank you, Lish.
All right, I'm handing it over to Tyler.
Yes, we do have first reading tonight on, from the board, Ben, and the board policy.
Sure.
committee.
I'll start off with a short commentary, and if any policy committee member wants to chime in, please do. There's only one policy here. It's primarily focused on AI, and it is a holdover from our last batch. We had various questions that we needed to get answered, and we feel like we did that. This is as a result of Neola's group of attorneys bringing these recommended changes forward to ensure that we're in compliance with state and federal law. We had our district AI task force and technology committee vet this, as well as administration. And we're bringing this forward as a first read. And if you have any questions between now and 2 weeks from now, please reach out and we will answer those the best that we can.
And being on that committee at that point, I know that this has been thoroughly gone over, and that's kind of why we held it over, so everybody could evaluate that a little more closely. And I actually had Ben kind of clarify one point with me earlier today, so should be good.
Anybody else on that committee? All right, so as Ben indicated, that is first reading. Please address any questions or comments to Ben. We will see this again in a few weeks. All right, moving to action items. We're going to start with, Tyler has two presentations for us tonight. The first is 25-26 budget amendment. We have a presentation in closure 14. I'll turn it over to you.
I remember to turn on my mic, so I'm already doing better than last time. So yes, we are here to discuss 2025-26 budget amendments for June 2026. Throughout the year, we do budget amendments to either capture new revenues or new expenses that were unforeseen in the budgeting process. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about today, we'll kind of breeze through, but I'll stop for if there's any questions. These are generally just reclasses, getting ready for closing out the year and being ready for our audit to close out the year of 2025-26. Looking at Fund 10, these are all general reclasses outside of some new revenue that had corresponding expenses to go along with those new revenues. So again, no new monies, just moving the dollars around and getting ready for the end of the year. For Fund 21, again, same kind of thing with Fund 10, new revenue, but there's also that new expense that comes along with that. So these are our activities that were through Fund 21. So we had additional either programs or activities that also had revenue paid for through the Booster Club or other foundations or charities. Fund 27, so this is our special education fund. These are all general reclasses, again, getting ready for the end of the year. And IDEA flow through, so the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So once we get those funds, we can then use those funds or the revenues to offset the expenses from the year prior. Fund 49, the biggest one here, or the biggest call out for all of the budget amendments is here in Fund 49. So this is our capital projects. We did get rebates of $180,000 for all of the projects that we've done at the high school and the middle school, which is just extra dollars to go towards future projects. And then the last, well, Fund 50, small change of $4,000 in material to discuss, but it's a change of $4,000, just moving some dollars around. And then Fund 73, so this is our Employee Benefit Trust Fund, or OPEB, and we gained some interest. So you can see that $12,000 that we have there for revenue. That was interest that we gained on our money sitting out there. So those are all the budget changes for 2025-26, and those will be the final changes for the year. So looking for the board's action to approve these budget amendments.
Could you just simplify like what you mean by it's just general reclassing?
Yep. Yeah, sorry. Reclasses, meaning so if there's any budgets that have been overspent or very close to being overspent, and then any budgets that are severely over budgeted, we're just moving those dollars around to make them, because that's how, any business would say, like, we're just making the dollars right where they should be. So we're just moving the buckets.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for Tyler?
As treasurer, I would move to approve the 2025-26 budget amendments as presented by Tyler and in enclosure 14.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Brian, to approve the revisions to the 25-26 budget as outlined in enclosure 14 and detailed by Tyler tonight. Are there any questions or comments? Yeah. Can we do a roll call on this, please?
Brian?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Thank you. Those budget amendments are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move into 26-27 for a preliminary budget approval, and we do have an enclosure for this as well.
Yep. So yeah, this is the 2026-27 preliminary budget. I have been practicing this, so I just got it under 60 minutes, so stay with me. We're gonna breeze through this because again, it's preliminary. A lot of the items in here are subject to change for our October budget adoption. Things that are being assumed now are numbers like membership, enrollment, and then state aid and local aid or local taxes. So that's why, again, this is all very preliminary, but we are using trends or other items that can help us be really, really close so that we're not having a completely different look in October. So looking at it high level here, this is the dashboard that I created. I wanted to take a look at The operating budget itself, so which would be funds 10 and 27, are at 55 million, or 55.7 million. That is just about 1.4 million over our budget from this last year, this 25-26 school year. So a 2.7% increase. We are balanced with our revenues and expenses with a small contingency of 500,000. 500,000 seems like a lot, but when you're talking about a $55 million budget, that is less than 1%. So that contingency we like to hold on to for any unforeseen large expenses. And then at the end of the year, if we have it, it's there and we can push it towards our fund balance and set us up better for future projects and things like that. 37.8 million, this is our largest operating expense, which is totally normal. This is salaries and benefits, so we are continually investing in our teachers and our admin. We want to be a school of choice, a district of choice, and the way we do that is to invest in our people. Of that $37.8 million, $29.3 million goes towards instruction. So again, going with our Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 of student engagement and student success, we're putting that money towards instruction, making sure that the students have the money and the resources that they need so they be successful. There's $22.7 million in local revenue. It's a 6.6% increase. Again, with that 1.4 million increase that we're saying that we're going to have of expenses. This is where the state aid and local taxes formula comes into play. So as our membership continues to drop and our enrollment starts to drop, our local taxes then pick up the extra buck, because state aid goes off of membership, not enrollment. And then we have 20.6 million in state revenue, again showing that decrease based on the membership drop that we're seeing over the last several years. And I put on each of one of these slides a little board takeaway. This is the little nugget I would like you guys to just remember as we're going through all this. We're balanced with a small contingency. Obviously, our largest cost driver is our people, while our state aid membership and open enrollment and special education assumptions will continue to move before the October adoption. So here's our budget message in one sentence. The 2026-27 preliminary budget maintains student programs and services while continuing to invest in staff, support daily operations, and plan responsibly for known changes in revenue and enrollment. So as I said, that 1.45 million expense increase versus our revised budget, which is a 2.7% operating growth. And then there's that 37.8 million that we have in our staff. So here's the major preliminary budget assumptions that we're making today. We have quite a few, and that's what makes this budget a little more unknown than maybe years prior. We are rolling out all-day 4K, which is we don't know how many kids we're going to get into those programs. We hope it's a lot. We have our new online academy, which we are saying conservatively, I think, that we'll have 25 kids enrolled in that program, which is netting to that 157,000 with revenues minus the expenses. Special education aid at 45%. This past year, the state said that they would be paying 42% of all special education claims or funds. They fell short of that. This year they say they're not going to, but we have budgeted conservatively, but we are closer to that 45% than maybe we would have been in years past. And then our open enrollment trend, we continue to see positive open enrollment. We're budgeting and planning for that same trend to continue, which is just it's an increase or an additive to our local tax dollars that we bring in. So that additional 510,000, with all others, we're making assumptions of almost 900,000 on our budget. So again, these assumptions should be treated as preliminary and monitors as actual enrollment, program participation, aid certification, and staffing needs are finalized. So what changed from 25-26? Here are the heavy hitters. So this is by object. So object in the woofer talk is where does the money go? not necessarily what the money is for. This is where the money goes. Salaries and wages and employee benefits are the big hitter. Again, those are our strategic investments that we have in our people to be, again, a district of choice. Purchase services, small equipment, capital objects. You can go down the list here and you can see where those dollars are falling. I want to call it insurance because that's cost savings. Every 3 years we have our workman's comp rolls over, and we're dropping off a year where we had quite a few claims. So that's actually a benefit or a pickup for us. So we're going to have some savings there when it comes to workman's comp insurance. And then there's that total operating expense change of that 1.45 million, again, balanced with the revenues. The 5 budget levers. So again, this is what I've kind of glossed over, but I'll go into a little more detail here. Enrollment and membership is the biggest one. That's the biggest driver of our revenue limit, which revenue limit minus our state equalization aid equals our local taxes. So as that enrollment and that membership drops, we're going to lean heavier on our local taxpayers. State funding is aid and revenue limit factors determined by the local tax relationship. Referendum support. So we all know that we have an operating referendum. That referendum is coming due here in the next year or two. I believe it's 2028 is when we are going to have to go back out. So that is a big piece that's in our budget and baked in to help support the students and the programs that we have. Staffing and compensation, as you can see, that salaries and wages were our largest cost driver, but it's also our biggest impact to students. Without our teachers, we can't serve our students. So, but as we continue to see membership drop, enrollment drop, that's where staffing changes will be made or classroom sizes change. Those are all the things that go into that staffing and compensation piece. And then services, special ed, and inflation. Those are all the other items and what the state and federal aid can give us when it comes to special education. So here's our revenue mix. So where is the money coming from? As you can see, we are roughly 51-48 when it comes to local revenue and inter-district. That's about that 52% makeup. Inter-district is our open enrollment dollars. That is all money on top of, so it's new monies in short, outside of tax revenue. And then state revenue and federal revenue make up that other 48%. That gets us a pretty balanced mix when it comes to revenue. So what is moving? Again, this is all based on the revenue limit and our membership and enrollment. And as you can see, as our membership drops, our local revenue and inter-district revenue will increase while our state and federal will decrease. So here's our expense mix. So where's that money go? Again, salaries and wages and benefits are our largest pot. That's at 68%. Purchase services is at 18.4%, with all other roughly being about 12%. I'm sorry I included this operating transfers out. I removed that from the revenue piece. That is an offset with a revenue. So generally don't show that. Everything is net of, but that is in there. So now you can see it's just moving from fund to fund to make sure that, like, say, from Fund 10 to Fund 27 to make sure that they have the money that they need, while the state aid comes way later than obviously the expenses are incurred. And we've been talking about a people-driven budget. So these are our most significant investment is in our people. Again, just showing that 27.8 million is in our salaries, so 50% of our expense, with 10 million going towards benefit. Again, we continue to show our willingness to meet CPI and go a little bit further than that. With this last year, all combined about being 2.8% when CPI was about 2.63%. So really investing in our people and becoming a district of choice for educators. So student investment, so here's where the money is going to. As I stated, instruction is our largest pot, with 29.3 million, or a 52.7% share. With student support, instructional staff, and purchase instructional coming in lower than that, but then our co-curricular being all of our activities and our sports that we offer for our students. And then, again, the board takeaway I wanted here is the budget reflects a commitment to the full student experience, strong classroom instruction, targeted student support, and a wide co-curricular selection for all students.
Tyler, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit what instructional staff services and purchase instructional services means?
Yep, I wrote it down.
Perfect.
Hold on, or no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I gotta go here. I put everything in Excel, so we don't have to. So purchase services are contracted services, utilities, travel, communication, and software services. And then instructional, why am I missing it right now? So curriculum, libraries, instructional support, and staff development.
Thank you.
It's a handy resource.
Try to make everything in one-stop shop, so I don't have to.
I appreciate that.
Tyler, I guess I have a question that's definitely focused on wages and benefits. And when you were talking about the budget amendment for the current year, you talked about the OPEB, other post-employment benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense of when that will run out?
We're starting to decrease it now.
Okay.
When it will run out, I do not know.
Okay.
As more and more people fall off of the program, we'll get a better understanding, but I mean, we still have a significant sum out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to give you a number, I'd be shooting in the dark.
Okay. I'm just remembering when we set that up and made the change. So, okay, thanks.
All right, and then going into enrollment and membership a little bit further. So here's showing that why enrollment, why membership really matters to us or to all school districts. Since 2021-22 to 26-27 estimates, we're seeing an enrollment change of about 298 students. That's a decrease, which means that's a decrease in dollars for our district. And then that correlates with our membership change of a decrease of 273 over the same period of time. So again, membership is a core revenue limit factor. Staffing adjustments lag enrollment changes. So we can't, once we figure out what we have in the school, it's a little too late to start. I would say we would let go of teachers, but we don't have much options there. It's kind of a lag into the next year. And then I mentioned about our referendum. We are going to start planning for referendum. This is outside of budget, but it's obviously a big factor in what we do, and where a lot of our budget dollars comes from is our referendum. So right now we're working on the preliminary budget. We're going to start community engagements here in 2027 to start ramping up and getting some, hopefully, a lot of people in support to continue that operating referendum. And then 2027-28 is the final year of the current referendum authority. And then 2028 will hopefully be the new referendum, operating referendum that we can pass. And then here's some of the budget variables that we're going to continue to monitor once we get to the October adoption. Final state aid certification, again, this is an assumption right now. Final aid shifts the balance between state revenue and local levy. So we won't know that until October certification. Enrollment and membership, again, based on trends. Membership directly impacts the revenue limit and overall funding authority. Again, that's going to help come from our September counts, so we'll have a better understanding of enrollment and open enrollment. Special education costs, again, based on the 45% of reimbursement in the state budget that they have written. Student needs will be met by the district, potential pressure on Fund 10. Again, putting the pressure on the state to actually give us that 45% so we don't have to pull from our general fund. open enrollment and vouchers, again, that's based on trend. We're on the right side of that ship, and hopefully we can continue that. Student movement affects the aid, the levy, and required payments to other entities, meaning those voucher payments. And then referendum expiration planning. As I explained, we're going to start that, and we already have. And we'll continue to work with members of this board and members of our team to have a successful referendum in 2028. And then here's just a quick, little hitter budget scorecard. The things that are, we're balanced. So that status is green. Enrollment and membership is yellow, just based on it is decreasing. We have a lot of assumptions with our all-day 4K and our online academy, which is, again, those are new dollars. So that those new dollars are baked in, and we're really hoping for those. Personnel costs, again, they're high, but they're not that high when you consider 68%. Normal districts are around 70, 75. We are in a good spot when it comes to that. State funding and certainty, again, can't force the state to pay us, and they, a lot of these funds are some certain, which means that if it is available, they will pay it. Strategic alignment, green, we are supporting our students and we're supporting our staff, which is part of our strategic plan. And then long-term stability or sustainability, that's that referendum. We need to make sure that we go out and really support and have a good message for referendum dollars, because it certainly goes directly towards our teachers and to our students. So next steps, I'm suggesting that we approve the 2026-27 preliminary budget as presented, with the understanding that the budget will continue to be refined as state aid, enrollment, property value, and local factors are finalized. And then off to the left here, I have our refinement timeline. Today is our preliminary budget. Throughout the summer, we'll continue to refine those assumptions and get a better understanding of where we're going to land. September, we'll get those student counts, and then October, we will have our budget hearing and original budget adoption. Any questions?
For the online academy, do we know the break-even point, how many students we need?
I do know that at 25, we are still in the green. I don't know where the break-even is. What I do know is the expense portion that we are paying for the Venture Upward is about $4,700 per student, so that's the cost. For every open enrollment kid we get, that's about $11,000, $11,300 is what we get in local aid. So that's it. So from that standpoint, the break-even is pretty easy to understand. We will always be ahead, but then we have the teachers and the staff. So if we don't have enough students, that those teachers' salaries are going to eat at that. I don't know what the specific is, but I can get that for you.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Any other questions? No, I appreciate your layout, and for what it's worth, first time through, very well explained. This is laid out very well, hopefully in such a way that is understood by the community too, beyond those of us who live this every day. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to take any feedback that you may have. I know I changed up the format quite a bit, but I figured I wanted to be more numbers focused, percentage focused, higher level, and then just have more of a story to tell with those numbers. So, but if there's any feedback, I'm happy to hear those.
Right, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026-2027 preliminary budget that was presented by Tyler and outlined in enclosure 15, 2026-27 presentation, and enclosure 15, 2026-2027 preliminary budget.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, seconded by, I'm drawing a blank, Tisha, jeez. To approve the 26-27 preliminary budget as presented by Tyler and detailed and outlined in enclosure 15, both 26-27 presentation and preliminary budget. Can I add that, understanding that the budget would be continued to be refined? Is that okay with?
Yeah.
The first and second, all right. Are there any questions or additional comments? Can we do another roll call on this?
Mark?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Right, that preliminary budget is approved. Thank you, Tyler. Are there any requests tonight to remove any items from the consent agenda for separate consideration?
I would request we remove item number 2 from the personnel report for separate consideration.
Item 2. Okay.
Do you want a motion approving the remainder of the consent agenda?
Yes.
I would make that motion, that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of B2.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Brian, to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 2 on the personnel report. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved with the exception of item 2. We will now take item 2 on the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
And that is a new employee, hourly staff, apparently.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve number 2 on the percentage.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Tisha, to approve item number 2 on the consent agenda. I will ask for a roll call vote, but prior to that, are there any questions? All right.
Mark?
Yes.
Bridget?
Abstain.
Anne?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
Right, item number 2 is approved. Thank you. Before we close tonight, I guess I want to make a point of noting that Lori and Todd are with us tonight for the very last time. Notice how sad they are that they won't have to on Monday nights. But that aside, thank you both very much for everything that you've brought to the district, the many, many years that you've brought it to us, for all the kids that you have impacted, and for all the adults you have impacted as well. So thank you very, very much. We will miss you both, but wish you all the very best in your retirement. And you know you can always watch us on TV, so.
Or come visit. Just pull up a chair.
How many years?
In the district? or
Well,
in
it coming to
education?
board meetings, yeah.
Oh, 17 years coming to board meetings.
And
Todd's got me beat
I'm
by
thinking
a lot.
Todd might have you beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably been closer to 23. I mean, if when I was associate, I don't know how many I came to, but it's probably pushing about 400, probably 500 meetings maybe, I don't know. But who's counting? Who's counting?
I've got you beat on IEP meetings.
Yes.
By
there.
far.
Definitely have.
All right, thank you. We have no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion by Brian, seconded by Mark to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.